Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Discover College Soccer. We are excited to continue our interviews here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia. And I am lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Laurence Paterson of Northern Illinois Women's Program. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you for being here and making time. Hopefully I'm not dragging you away from all the fun stuff on the exhibition floor.
No, I've spent too much money already, and but no, happy to be here.
Great. Well, let's talk about the recruiting side of things to start. You guys are I think the words you use, up and coming Division I program, new staff. You've just been there this season, and it's now heavy recruiting time with all the showcases. I don't know if maybe you flew directly from Tampa in the ECNL Florida event here to Philly like a lot of coaches did, but are you guys, is your 23 class all locked up? Are you looking at 24s, or what's that look like right now for you?
Yeah, so given the fact that myself and the other assistant, Coach Valentina, we all just started in July, and with that, it sort of meant we had to kind of recruit on the fly, still recruit some 2022s, even 2023s, and so right now we're kind of doing two classes at once, if you will, right? So I know a lot of coaches, I was speaking to a lot, obviously, at the ECNL event in Tampa, that have pretty much everything wrapped up, not just for 23, but for 24. And I was like, oh my goodness, because we could still maybe be looking at a few 23s. So just based on the fact that when we started the job, that's kind of why we're recruiting two at once. This will obviously, as we get going, this will change in the near future. But for the most part, got 23s wrapped up, and we're making some headway on 24s as well, for sure.
Okay, well, you mentioned you were down there at ECNL in Florida. Are there other tournaments that you guys consider kind of the must-see hit list that you got to get to each year to find talent?
Yeah, sure. So we were at the GA event in Arizona. Just a fantastic standard, right? Sometimes it's nice. Obviously, we're always looking for players, but sometimes it's nice just to watch really just high level soccer, because we're fans first and then kind of coaches second. You know what I mean? So the GA event in Arizona was fantastic, and we enjoyed the ECNL event too. These are sort of the go-tos, right? And as you probably know, having been to some of these events, you just see there are hundreds of college coaches. I think there was something like 22 fields at the one complex in Tampa, and it was just lined with coaches just out there with their chairs, and a lot of guys working really hard, going from field to field. And so again, with it being our first experience kind of recruiting at the Division I level, we're kind of modeling, or still rather figuring out what our model is to go to these events and how we approach them as a staff. And a lot of those guys who have been doing it for an awful long time set a really good example for us, but these are events that you just have to go to for sure.
Well, besides tournaments and showcases and all that kind of stuff, are you guys having your own ID camps? Do you and the other staff work other people's camps? Do camps fit in at all?
Yes, absolutely. If we look at our current roster, there's a handful from our current roster that you can say, came through an ID camp, or at least that's how we found out about them. So these are great tools for us to have, things to have on campus where we can kind of show a little bit about what campus is like, what our coaching style is like, and hopefully garner some interest from players as well who might already be coming to Northern Illinois, or might be thinking that I want to go to NIU, you're on my list kind of thing. We do have camps coming up February 4th and February 11th. We'll be doing ID camps, so back-to-back weekends. Really excited for those. Spots are filling up quick. And again, it's more than just the soccer stuff that we like to show off, right? We like to show off the campus, the facilities that we've got, what we can offer to potential NIU soccer players.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, in terms of what makes a player kind of stand out in your eyes, whether you're at a camp or at a tournament, or what are those hierarchy of things that you're looking for in a player that's going to make you want them to come to NIU?
Sure. I work an awful lot with goalkeepers, and I've had this question in the past from goalkeepers, what kind of traits are you looking for in a player? And I kind of always give this almost it feels a little bit like a cop-out answer sometimes, because we're really looking for the complete player, right? A player who's got more than just one attribute. I think that one of the things we stress, and could be our coaching style, but also the style of just Division I women's soccer in general, is the speed of play, right? It's got to be 1 and 2 touch players with a little bit of vision and awareness. No, not just awareness of where they're at in the field, but rather just awareness of what's behind them. Can they play in 1 and 2 touch? Can they move the ball quick, left to right? The speed of play thing is normally if players ask for feedback, that's the thing that we go to right away. So again, it's a complicated answer because I know it's a multitude of traits that you're looking for in a player, but that has to be the first one on our list for sure.
Well, and you're not the first coach to say those words today. Speed of play,
of course.
Well, and going back to kind of the recruiting side of things, one of the biggest changes in the college soccer world these days is the transfer portal. So is that something that you guys are looking at? Has that factored into your recruiting at all?
Yes, definitely. We were lucky enough to get 3 from the transfer portal this year who are going to come in right away and help us. Some really big time players that we know are not only going to come in and make an instant impact, but they're doing that because they've got a wealth of experience as well. So we're definitely really excited about the transfer portal as a resource. It's not something that was around when I was a player at the college level. And again, when you're expecting 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds to make decisions about where they're going to end up for the next 4 years, sometimes you might have a good first impression on a recruiting visit, but things don't work out. And the portal's obviously a great resource for them, definitely a great resource for us. And then just with the way that technology works and what we're able to see on things like game footage and video, right? When we find players on the transfer portal, we can have an instant evaluation, if you will, right? We can just see, where they're at in terms of their level, what their attributes are, what they could bring to us as a program, and so on. So that was a huge tool for us to use this year, and it's definitely something that we're going to continue to use in the future.
Well, the other question I have around recruiting then is, something tells me that your accent is not from Northern Illinois.
Sure.
So what, how does the international recruiting figure in for you guys?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Scotland. I've been in the States for a while, so that's why I've kind of got this sort of strange hybrid accent, I think. No one can quite tell where I'm from. But in terms of, again, it's when we're using things like agencies, this is kind of where the international stuff comes in, right? We haven't been on any international trips ourselves. I know coaches that I've worked for in the past. I know that coaches that I worked for at Saginaw Valley State have made trips and were able to go to recruiting events back in the UK. We kind of rely more on the agencies who are going to send us players. There's a lot of guys that we work with, guys that we know and trust, guys who have sent us players in the past and we know will send us good names. So this year we've got a few internationals. We've got one from England. We've got a girl from Germany who was just fantastic for us last year. So sometimes obviously the styles are different, right? And you can tell they came from very high-level academies in England or in Germany, wherever they might have come from. They may take a little bit of time to adjust. What we're impressed with is that adjustment period has usually been quite quick, right? And again, it's to harp back on about that point, it's usually a speed of play thing, right? And just seeing what it's like at the MAC level, the Division I level. It's a tough league to be in. It's an aggressive league, right? And the adjustment period for those guys has just been fantastic. So they've adapted really well.
No, that's great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. There may be some folks out there don't know Northern Illinois.
Sure.
I mean, come on, it is a MAC school. The best conference. I think dominated by an Ohio University. But I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I gotta send some love to my alma mater. But no. But like you say, you guys have just got there this summer. So in your 6 months or so there, what are some of the things that you found that are really awesome about Northern Illinois that folks may not know about?
Sure. So I'm speaking first from my experience coming from the Division II level. I came from a Division II school that has just fantastic facilities, and then moving to the Division I level, this just goes up tenfold, right? So really impressed that we've got the Cheswick Fieldhouse that we're able to train in all winter. I think back to my playing days when we didn't have a field house, right? And we were playing on this hard court surface, doing mostly futsal and laps, whereas now we get to do soccer-specific stuff year-round, right? So it's a fantastic facility for us to have. We just put brand new turf into our home field, and we've got state-of-the-art turf now. It's just been excellent as well to train on day in, day out. As far as the athletic side of things, we always love bringing recruits in and kind of just showing, what it is we have to offer. And it's a phenomenal facility for the athletes. Multiple training rooms. They're well taken care of for sure. In terms of the academic side of things, when we do tours, we usually like to bring in a player to do the tour, someone who knows the facility a little bit better than us and knows the academic buildings better. But recently I've been going on some of those myself, not just because I'm tagging along and just meeting the recruits, but because I want to see the facilities too, and I want to be able to show the recruits these facilities. So we're about an hour west of Chicago, so we're still in an area where DeKalb's a college town. Pretty easy access to Chicago should players want to spend some time in the city, but in an area where it's also quite quiet. And my girlfriend and I, we just moved. We've got a condo, and we kind of joke that we're out in the cornfields, but it's kind of perfect because it bridges that gap between the city life, the college town, and of course some peace and quiet as well. So I know that there's a great atmosphere, a great environment for players. In terms of the soccer facilities, we offer just about every academic program you could think about, and the social life aspect. Obviously, that's a huge part of college as well. We want players to come in and have the full college experience, and we understand that there's some give and take there. Obviously, when you're a Division I athlete, right, you've got to prioritize that and prioritize your school stuff, but it's part of the college experience, and it's an important one. So that's when we bring in recruits for overnight. We definitely want them to experience multiple aspects of what the campus is like itself.
Well, and that brings me to my next question. You kind of mentioned it there, but in terms of that balance between academics and athletics, what support systems does your school offer to help, and how do your players really tackle that balance?
Yeah, so we've got an advisor who works specifically with us at women's soccer. She's absolutely fantastic. She's helped us out a ton with the recruiting trips as well. She likes to sit down and meet the recruits. We have what's called the student athlete academic support services. So these are resources where if you're falling behind in certain classes, we can certainly offer things like tutors. Specifically for the athletes, that there's really just great resources in terms of that stuff, because we want to get out in front of these things before problems occur, right? And we know that, especially coming in as a freshman to college life, sometimes the adjustment period is tough, right? I don't think anyone has just a completely flawless freshman year. It's an adjustment period, but we're able to see grades pretty much not in real time, but we get reports every now and again where we're never disciplinary about it kind of thing, but we want to make sure that we can offer support in whatever way, and there's certainly resources that players can use as long as they're proactive about things. They meet with their advisor. I think it's on a bi-weekly basis, which is just outstanding. So I never had that again when I was a player. I keep harping on about how tough life was when I was in college.
Yeah, but, and I'm a good 10-15 years your senior, and trust me, it wasn't any easier then either.
Yeah, sure.
Well, so I know there's no such thing as a typical week when it comes to college soccer, but can you give me a quick walkthrough of what your players would normally go through during the season, just in terms of, Monday, when's practice, when's your typical game cadence, when there's classes and meals and all that kind of stuff?
Sure. So during the season we trained at 10 o'clock, right, in the morning, that is. Right now, it all depends again on the availability of our indoor facilities, right? We're not in Florida. We can train, outdoors 5 days a week. So our practice schedule for over the winter is going to be 7 p.m. During the season's tough. Our game schedule is Thursday, Saturday. So it almost felt like once we were into conference play, once we were into the MAC play, it seemed like it was just game and then regen and then match day -1, right? So we're doing your match day -1 is more your tactical session where you're kind of going through almost like a walkthrough. Your regen is just a recovery session, to rehab any injuries or things that might be going on. It seemed like it was just match day -1, regen, match day -1. So during our preseason, again, we train at our fall schedule. We were really impressed with a lot of the fitness test results, and that kind of meant we were able to hit the ground running with the soccer stuff. We've always said we don't want to be fitness coaches, we're soccer coaches. And so I had a fantastic preseason, 2 very tough games going into the season. Played Iowa first, and then played University of Wisconsin, which was a great test for us to see where we're at. And although we didn't get results in either of those games, we walked away with tons of positives, and that kind of really set the standard for how this season was going to go. So we're very encouraged about not just the girls' attitude in games, but also in practice. They're very professional the way they approach the practice sessions, and that definitely set a standard for how the season was going to go. And we hope that we're onward and upward from here on in.
No, that's tremendous, and I think we actually. One of the Iowa players has been helping out with the podcast next to us, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the soccer side of things. Is there a roster size that you guys are trying to hit each year that you find is ideal?
Sure. So I think this year we were at 26. We're definitely we don't have like a roster cap, so to speak. I guess it sort of depends maybe how many lockers do we have in the locker room kind of thing as well, but we don't really have a cap in mind or an ideal roster. Obviously it's important to have depth, especially when you're playing that Thursday, Saturday schedule, Thursday, Sunday schedule. So I think for the next year we should be somewhere around 28 or 29. Again, could be looking to add one more potentially for class of 2023. So in short, no, we don't have an ideal roster. Obviously, we like to travel with everybody if we can. As you start seeing the numbers go into the 30s, that's when usually you actually have to have a travel roster and so on. It was great that we were able to get everyone on, unless of course there was some serious injury or illness or something like that. We were able to get everyone on the bus for all of our trips, which was great. So I think we'll probably cap out somewhere just under that 30 number for sure.
Okay. And then I know you mentioned yourself and your other assistant that's here, but what does the overall staff look like, and maybe even not just soccer staff, but are there other support staff in the athletic department that help out with the team, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we're really lucky this year. We're going to be able to bring in a graduate assistant who's going to be able to help us out. They'll be great because they'll also be able to jump into sessions. I still jump into sessions every now and again. I'll be icing my kneecaps after it, but Coach Valentina, like I was saying as well, graduated from SVSU in 2019, so she's big on the fitness stuff and still jumps into sessions. So you'll see the staff kind of being a bit more dynamic and interactive in the session. We like that stuff. Bringing in the graduate assistant obviously will be fantastic for us to help out with not only sessions and games, but with recruiting events as well. So we're really pleased about that. We do have a strength coach that works specifically with women's soccer, and we have a full-time athletic trainer just specifically for women's soccer. And what's really been great is just the open lines of communication between the soccer staff, the strength staff, and the athletic training staff, because number one, it keeps our players fit and healthy, helps us or keeps us in the loop regarding what kinds of things we should be looking to do in training, player specific, and then what kinds of things can be done in the weight room, whether that's preventative stuff, preventative measures, or whether that's rehabbing certain injuries or whatever it might be, soreness. there's just been great communication between those three branches, and that allows us to just maintain, we want to maintain our roster size and a healthy roster to make sure that we have that depth for when we go into MAC conference play, and you never know what's going to happen. I mean, God forbid we don't plan on injuries. We don't want that stuff to happen, but working with the ATs and the strength staff has really just been fantastic. They've been an absolute blessing for us. We're very lucky to have them on board.
Well, it sounds like it. That it is always a good thing when everybody can work together for the betterment of the whole squad.
Absolutely.
Well, when it comes to on the field stuff, I mean, how would you describe kind of your staff's style of coaching and the team style of play?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'll harp on Mike. Mike's one of the most dynamic and passionate coaches I've met. He just loves the game in general. Part of my job description is making sure that Mike doesn't get yelled at too often for stepping onto the field, because I know he would if he could. But no, I think that we're all a very dynamic staff, especially games and sessions, right? Mike, you cannot sit down. I don't know why they put a chair out for him. The guy will pace up and down that sideline and get constantly yelled at by linesmen. But no, he's a fantastic role model. And obviously, as coaches, you model your style a little bit off your mentors as well. And so I think that rubs off on both of us. And that's, I've worked with Mike now for since 2019. So this will be my fourth full year working with him. Obviously started at SVSU with him, now at NIU. I definitely model a lot of what I'm trying to do off of what the example that he set. So like I said to you before, when we're jumping into sessions or serving balls, whatever it might be, we are a very dynamic coaching staff. We're not ones to just sit down in the chairs. It's been great this past year. We actually pull up the live stream, so I'm on the iPad for a lot of the games, so I kind of see things 10 seconds after they happen. We make notes about coaching points, things that we can talk about at halftime, how we can improve. Also, I get that sort of bird's eye view and being able to see things like shape and where our shortfalls might be. And then just in terms of warm-ups, it's been just nothing but good vibes. We're all involved in that stuff. We want to, the games are where we want you to go out and express yourself, have a bit of creativity, still be creative but disciplined. But no, can't say enough good things about how dynamic the staff has been. I think that's hopefully creating a culture, setting a standard for what we expect from the players too.
No, that's a good way to look at it for sure. Well, you mentioned the live stream. What kind of, besides, or what video, what other technologies, what kind of things do you guys employ on a regular basis to help, whether it's in training or in games, or using GPS, or you looking at data? What's that look like?
Sure. So we have looked into some of the GPS stuff, some of the things like heart rate monitors. I know that we don't have them yet. It's something that we're hoping to get soon. A lot of the teams that use this stuff, it's great for them because they can design their sessions based on the data that comes out from that. In terms of what we look at, we obviously look at, when we're scouting teams, we definitely look at a lot of their previous games. I do the scouting reports, whereas Mike will kind of take charge of how we're going to operate based on what that scouting report says. It's always easy to kind of identify things like key players and to look at historically what their formations might be, right? But style of play is something that you've got to be a little bit more analytical about and kind of have a look to see, not just who the key players are and what the formation looks like, but what is their brand of soccer, Again, when it comes to the scouting stuff, nothing's clear cut. It's your best guess, right? We've gone through scouting reports where we've seen a team do nothing but a 3-5-2 and then they line up in a 4-3-3. And I'm looking at myself going, or Mike's looking at me going, what did you waste all your time doing this for? So, no, we definitely, we don't look too much into that. I always kind of make the point when I do deliver the scout reports, right? We want to focus on us. We want to focus on our brand of soccer, and we don't really want to influence our brand of soccer based on how someone else plays, So I kind of take them for what it's worth, right? It's important to highlight some things, but we don't harp on and on about this, and we don't design entire tactical sessions based on a team that hits a long ball or something like that, right?
No, that makes sense. Well, Laurence, you've been very generous with your time. We've covered a lot of ground, and I always like to end these the same way, and that's what didn't we cover? What else would you like folks to know, whether it's about the recruiting process, about NIU, or about anything college soccer related?
Sure.
I leave you with the last word.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do the shameless plug for our camps again. We always give fair evaluations when it comes to camps. We love meeting players, having them on campus. We love showing what we can offer in terms of what NIU can offer for players, but also what we can offer as a staff. When we're recruiting players, we always say that we want everything to be a good fit, right? And it may be the case that you're a fantastic player or something, but it's just not the right fit for you in terms of maybe the school or campus or something. And we understand that. We want players to come on campus and be excited to be on NIU's campus and excited to play, and excited to become an NIU Husky. So I think that my one little sort of bit of advice, I think, just for these potential recruits is just make sure that where you're looking at, it's got to be a good fit in multiple aspects of the game. That be coach, school, the campus. All of these things are important. Social life, I know we touched on. This is also important. But no, we're excited for the future. NIU women's soccer. We know we've got work to do, but we've got ambitions. We want to win a MAC championship for sure. We want to beat Ohio University, of course.
Well, I was going to say, I wish you the best of luck in all your games but one.
Sure.
But no. And I couldn't agree more on the right fit stuff. It's one of the things that I always like to talk about. And luckily, you're maybe the third or fourth interview I've had today, and everybody's kind of said the same thing about finding that right fit, and it really is important. We wish you and the staff, like I said, best of luck, and we'll keep an eye on you, and hopefully, first or second in the MAC. We'll see if we'll let Ohio.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks so much for
Take
having
care.
me. Appreciate it.